Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, a hidden pattern that connects thousands of years of human history. It's a structure that honestly might just change how you see everything, from ancient myths all the way to modern science.
So let me just kick this off with a big question. Think about it for a second. Egyptian temples, the philosophy of Socrates, and the AI art that's all over the internet right now. On the surface, what could possibly tie these things together? They're separated by thousands of years, completely different cultures, but believe it or not, they are all linked by one invisible thread.
You know, when you look at human history, it can feel like total chaos, right? Just a random jumble of ideas, empires rising and falling, beliefs smashing into each other. But what if I told you there's a predictable pattern running underneath all of it, a kind of blueprint for how our culture evolves?
And here's the secret. The connection isn't in what happened in history, but in how we thought about what was happening. The pattern is hidden in the very architecture of human thought itself and how it's changed over the millennia. So how do we even begin to see this pattern? Well, there's a framework for it called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM for short. And probably the easiest way to get it is to think of humanity's collective mind as a computer that's been getting a series of major software updates. That's the core idea of the BKM. It suggests we've gone through 4 huge upgrades to our mental operating system, and each new version didn't just replace the old one, it built on top of it, adding new features and changing how everything else worked. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. OS 1.0. This is the story system, or the mythic layer. This is our oldest, most fundamental software. Its main job? To explain the world through powerful, emotional, shared stories. These myths didn't need to be logical. They just had to feel true and, most importantly, bind the tribe together.
Then came the first big upgrade, OS 2.0, the belief system. This is where we took all those fluid, local myths and started to organize them into stable, massive institutions. We're talking about the birth of organized religion, with concrete rules, centralized authority, and a structure built to last for centuries.
And then, everything changed. OS 3.0, the logic system, was a complete game changer. This is the philosophical mind. For really the first time, humanity began to systematically question the old beliefs. Instead of just accepting rules from on high, this new system used abstract reasoning to figure things out for itself, defining concepts like justice, truth, and beauty.
Which brings us to where we are now, the dominant operating system of our time, OS 4.0, the evidence system. This is the scientific mind. It takes the elegant, abstract ideas of philosophy, but adds one crucial, killer rule. You have to prove it. An idea isn't good enough just because it's logical. It has to be tested against reality with observation and experiments.
So you can see the whole progression here, right? From myth to religion to philosophy and finally to science. But the really critical thing to remember is that these layers stack. We didn't delete the old software. We still tell stories, we still have beliefs, but now they all run inside this newer, more complex system shaped by logic and evidence. Okay, that all sounds neat, but how does an entire society just upgrade its thinking? It's not like we all get a notification, you know? It happens because certain people come along, let's call them the great rule breakers. They're the thinkers who find the limits of the current system and push it until it's forced to change. And let's meet 2 of the greatest system shifters of all time, Socrates and Friedrich Nietzsche. You can almost think of Socrates as a bug in the code of the mythic age. He used logic to poke holes in all the traditional stories. And then, centuries later, Nietzsche did the exact same thing to the belief system, challenging the very foundation of religious authority.
You know that famous line from Socrates, "I know that I know nothing"? That wasn't just him being humble, that was his weapon. By admitting ignorance and then asking relentless questions, he completely destabilized the certainty of myth-based answers. He was essentially forcing a system reboot, a shift from just accepting stories to actually engaging in rational self-examination. He paved the way for OS 3.0.
And then you have Nietzsche. Wow. His famous declaration of the death of God wasn't just a provocation, it was a diagnosis. He was saying that OS 2.0, the religious belief system, was no longer the central processor for Western culture. And with that authority gone, he argued, humanity was now both terrifyingly free and totally responsible for creating its own meaning and values from scratch.
So the model works for these huge shifts in philosophy. But what if there was even more powerful proof? What if we could actually see these mental upgrades happen? Well, maybe the most stunning evidence for this entire theory comes from art history. Here's the key idea. Think of art as a screen capture of the human mind at any given moment. It's the visual printout of whatever operating system is running. So it just makes sense, right? If you change the underlying software, the images that appear on the screen are going to change too.
And when you lay it all out like this, the pattern is just undeniable. It's breathtaking. The mythic layer, focused on story and ritual, it gives us the monumental, timeless art of Egypt. Then the religious layer, built on theology, you get the divine, otherworldly beauty of Byzantine icons and soaring Gothic cathedrals. With the philosophical layers turned towards logic and humanism, art transforms, and boom, we get the perfect anatomy and perspective of the Renaissance. And finally, our scientific layer, obsessed with evidence and experimentation, fuels everything from realism and impressionism all the way to, you guessed it, modern AI art. The correlation is just staggering.
So, where does this incredibly powerful model leave us right now?
We've seen these four great systems: story, belief, logic, and evidence. They are the building blocks that have defined our past and brought us to this exact moment in history.
And this, of course, brings us to the final, massive question. Our journey has taken us all the way from myth to our current scientific age, OS 4.0. If this pattern holds, and it seems to, then what's next? What does OS 5.0 look like? What will be the next great upgrade for the human mind? What comes after science?